Hey everyone, Pugs here with two new reviews for y'all. Today, I'm covering Hide and Then What Happens and Shellback Shenanigans. Well then, these are two very Season 7 episodes, and unfortunately, this time that is not necessarily a good thing. I also find that these two are forgettable episodes, especially the former. Seriously, who here can name what the first episode is about right off the bat? Well, okay, I guess I could tell you the basic plot synopsis, but who here can actually remember watching the episode? Yeah, that's what I thought. Shellback Shenanigans, on the other hand, I think this episode is more memorable for me because of Gary's involvement and the fact that it uses a plot that is relatively common in Season 7, but I'll discuss more of that when I get to the episode's actual review. And so, with that in mind, I suppose now is a great time for me to get to the part where I say, as always, thank you all for watching today. I appreciate every single one of you and all of your comments, too. I love seeing your thoughts on the episodes that I review, even if I don't always reply. And with that said, let's just get right into it. I know that at times it can feel like I throw around the word forgettable lightly, but believe me when I say that Hide and Then What Happens is definitely up there as one of the most forgettable episodes in the show. I would not say it is the most forgettable, but unlike some of the other entries on that esoteric list, I think I know exactly why this episode is forgettable, because nothing fucking happens in it. Hide and Then What Happens is an episode with so little substance that I truly have no idea what to even say about it in a summary. That's why this intro is packed with that relatively irrelevant beginning information, because I have nothing else that I can say. So I'm just going to go ahead and get into the chronological review so that maybe you'll see what I mean. Hide and Then What Happens begins with a whole lot of nothing. Who's surprised? Man, I thought we left this kind of thing behind in Season 6. Like, why are we watching an entire sequence of SpongeBob and Patrick blinking? And speaking of leaving things behind in Season 6, although it has popped up a few times since then, guess what else is in this episode? If you guessed that butt-ugly design of SpongeBob that I dislike a lot, you'd be correct. Oh, and I guess I'll make mention of this now. I am very aware that this design is from Aaron Springer. The only reason I don't say that every time is because I don't want to make it sound like I'm hating on him specifically or anything like that. Just this design. Anyway, another thing that I don't really like here is the tired and unfunny joke of Patrick not knowing who SpongeBob is. This whole trend of Patrick not knowing basic things is nowhere near as funny as I'm sure it's supposed to be. Actually, it's rarely funny at all, especially when it's done like this. And to add insult to this increasingly grievous injury, this first part of the episode tries to do the kind of blank stare joke that brings to mind missing identity, but this joke fails because, again, Patrick being oblivious here is not funny. And the fact that this joke, if you could even call it that at this point, goes on and on is not really helpful in any way. It wasn't funny the first time, it wasn't funny the second time, and it sure as shit wasn't funny the third time. Just drop it already. We eventually get to the hide and seek promised in the episode title, and you guessed it, it's boring as hell. SpongeBob doesn't get the chance to properly hide, and Patrick continues to be so oblivious, and unwise, and lacking in the most basic of common sense that it's not even entertaining. Like, where are the jokes? Or maybe I should say, where are the jokes that actually land? Patrick just leaving and going home when it is his turn to hide is not funny, and it also reminds me of a kinda sad childhood story of mine, so that makes it even less funny for me, and dances along the edge of personal. And then finally, something actually entertaining happens during the scene between SpongeBob and Squidward. This reminds me of the scene from Boating Buddies, or Summer Job even, but even more entertaining. And I do like the idea of SpongeBob searching all of Bikini Bottom for Patrick. I just wish that we didn't already know that this was a futile venture, but I suppose I liked a story beat similar to this in pre-hibernation week, so I can't complain too much, right? Well, I guess I can, because the surrounding contexts of the story beats are wildly different, wherein knowing that SpongeBob is under Patrick's rock makes that episode amusing, probably because we were following SpongeBob for much of that episode, while in this episode it just makes everything feel pointless. But anyway, that was a tangent. At least through this plot, we get to see other characters like Squidward, Mr. Krabs, Mrs. Puff, and Sandy. This section of the episode ranges from being boring to being entertaining to being a tiny bit irritating. SpongeBob's "Are you sure? I'm looking at you." So in general, I find this section to be decent. Certainly a huge improvement over the beginning of this episode, but I suppose that isn't saying much, is it? I like when SpongeBob's search for Patrick becomes a huge epic journey, and I kind of wish that the episode was more of this. It could have almost been like an improved version of whatever happened to SpongeBob. Kind of. Yeah, okay, that was a very weak connection. Sue me for trying. And while we're on this epic journey part of this episode, I love the vibes here. The music is great, and I loved the background of the End of the World Cafe and gift shop. Also, the scene taking place here is great as well, like when SpongeBob finds Patrick Not Star. That might have just been the second joke to actually get at least a chuckle out of me in this whole episode. The first is the bit with Squidward from earlier. I did actually laugh there. But yeah, when I'm able to count the jokes that made me laugh in an episode, that's when you know it's pretty dire. Anyway, Patrick Notstar ends up giving SpongeBob some sage advice, although I feel like the episode kind of abruptly decided that SpongeBob's motivation here was to win at all costs, because up until this point, that is not at all the vibe I've gotten from him. It felt more like he wanted to just finish the game. So that's an inconsistency that kind of bothered me, but also at this point I don't even care. So SpongeBob gives up the search and goes to leave Patrick a note that says that he's the best hide-and-seek player ever, and he finds out that Patrick was under his rock the whole time. And, I have no idea how this episode did it, but the last little stinger here where Patrick asks what hide-and-seek is actually made me smile, even though I could see it coming from a mile away. So I suppose I can appreciate this. Like, yeah, I would have definitely laughed had the hide and seek joke been funny at all during the course of the episode, but oh well, I'll take an ending that makes me smile. But even with that pick me up of an ending, I don't really like Hide and Then What Happens. The bits of this episode that I do enjoy kind of mask the unpleasant bits somewhat, at least until I rewatch those first few minutes, and then I realize how much of a fucking slog this episode is, rife with missed opportunities and failed jokes all over the damn place. So I'm just going to be blunt and say that this episode is going in the barely tolerable tier with a score of 4.6 out of 10. Why this tier? Well, mediocre tier episodes are not funny, but tolerable tiers episodes are unfunny. And this episode, it's definitely the latter. Whenever I think of Shellback Shenanigans, I gotta be honest, I mix it up with Shell Shocked. Like, in some ways, I feel like the titles of these episodes should have been switched, but more because that episode had more of what I'd call shenanigans afoot, though I suppose that this episode also has shenanigans. Ugh. Maybe they should have done something that wasn't a shell pun. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So perhaps me mixing up this episode with another one could be thought of as a bad omen, but I'm happy to report that this isn't the case, as I enjoy Shellback Shenanigans and my mixing it up has nothing to do with its quality. As you can easily guess by the title, this episode heavily features my favorite little guy, Gary, and Gary episodes like this often start with an advantage given that I am the CEO of Gary the Snail. Yes, I'm humble. And for once, we have an episode that actually makes use of this advantage. Why is it that 80% of the time when an episode begins with a gorgeous background shot, it's of the Krusty Krab? That's just something interesting that I've noticed. And Shellback Shenanigans continues this trend with an amazing shot of the Krusty Krab at dusk, and I love it. These background artists continue to understand the assignment at all times, which is great for me because I can't get enough of these backgrounds. They're great for profile layouts too. Anyway, this beginning bit of the episode is nice enough. I love that SpongeBob wants to get Gary a little treat, and that apparently there's a bring your pet to work day happening. I also thought the joke about Squidward here was hilarious. Moving right along, the bit with Plankton and Karen and her trying to read lips was entertaining enough. The whole he said what joke had the disadvantage of being a joke type that I don't like. For me, it's just a frustrating misunderstanding. But this joke did at least end with Plankton realizing what Karen was saying and not never realizing like usually happens with these jokes, so I am perfectly happy with that. Also, I'm just happy Karen is here in the first place. It's been a minute since we've seen her, and I've been feeling the absence. Alright, so I guess now is a good time as any to explain that my main problem number one with this episode is a direct result of this lip-reading bit between Karen and Plankton, and the problem is this. Why didn't Plankton use his clearly X-ray telescope to look into the Krusty Krab while a batch of Krabby Patties were being made? Like, why would he do this whole convoluted plan when what I just said would have been much easier and much less risky? And yes, I know the answer is because of the plot, but this is such a glaring question to me throughout the episode, and it kind of renders the entire plot after this point to be pointless to me. Or maybe that's not the right word. I don't want to say forced. I guess just unnecessary? Whatever. I suppose that in the end that this allows us to see more of Gary in this episode, and that's a win. And hey, at least we get a Gary Takes a Bath reference out of this too. Well, kinda. I know it's just a reference to cats hating water, but let me have this. Plankton proceeds to trick Gary into leaving in a pretty entertaining scene, so I suppose that my critique of the sensibleness of the plot can be set aside for now, as this scheme is pretty entertaining. Although, this is the third time this season that Plankton has pretended to be someone else for his scheme. Now, I don't really have a problem with this, since each episode, and the others being Someone's in the Kitchen with Sandy and Grandma's Secret Recipe, did this plot in a different way, and so far I can say with certainty that this is the best of the 3 episodes. And this segment also contains some more gorgeous background paintings for me to admire, so that's another win. And Plankton's disguise as Gary is so delightfully silly, so I'm a fan of that too. Shellback Shenanigans continues this upward swing as Plankton's plan is continually foiled time and time again. The bit at the hospital was just hilarious, and the fact that no one can tell that Plankton is pretending to be a snail is beyond me, but I'll suspend my disbelief since it's funny. This part is also hilariously dark, too, so that's another thing that's great. And then we cut to Gary, who unfortunately has to cut his vacation under false pretenses, short. And I get really excited because it looks like Gary is about to take care of business. And take care of business he does. Like, I am laughing my ass off in this part because it's deserved and it's hilarious. And I love how Mr. Krabs ends up getting a business idea out of it, like he is wont to do, and so he makes Gary the bouncer. The ending stinger for this episode was great and an excellent way to end things. In some ways, Shellback Shenanigans feels like a joint apology for A Pal for Gary and Someone's in the Kitchen with Sandy because of the way that Gary is treated far better and we're given a deception plot much more appealing than those 2 episodes. And you know what? I accept this apology, because despite what some of my comments might suggest, I found this episode to be really good. It was certainly better than expected. Probably because Plankton's plan worked at no stage in the process, so we just got to watch it fail in such hilarious ways. And seeing Gary be the hero will always be a win with me. Now, I don't know exactly why we're having this trend of Gary being forced to work at the Krusty Krab in one way or another this season, like this is the 3rd time, but honestly it's kind of funny when I put it that way. Well, anyway, all of this is why this episode is being put in my amazing tier, where it comes in with a score of 9.2 out of 10. As always, I'll be ending this review with some closing thoughts of mine. I mean, I don't have too much to say. Like, I did a decent amount of yapping for both of the reviews today, and these aren't episodes that inspire me to yap very much. Anyway, like, I swear I don't know what else to say. I guess I now also get Shellback Shenanigans mixed up with Pineapple Invasion. Yeah, that's a thought. Maybe my brain is empty. I know it's definitely empty today as I record this episode. But I really don't think that there's anything else to say about these 2. So I guess I'll just end these closing thoughts pretty early on, and I will end the review here, and I will see you guys in the next review.